God bless you, WME family. Welcome back. And once again, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this broadcast. We're so blessed to have you be a part of what God is doing here at World Missionary Evangelism. Remember, none of this could take place without your help, without your prayers, without your support. So thank you for standing with us. Thank you for everything you do for this ministry. And please keep us in prayer. This ministry couldn't do what it does without prayer. It couldn't have stood the decades that it's stood without prayer. And we thank God for the amount of prayer that takes place in this ministry. Do you know that before every program we do a time of prayer? Because we want this to be a blessing to your life. The Bible tells us if the Lord doesn't build a house, they labor in vain, those that labor. So there's got to be prayer behind it. There's got to be prayer behind what's being done, what's being said, and where we're going with this ministry. We have to rely on God's counsel. We have to rely on God's direction. The same for your life. You have to rely on where the Lord is leading, where the Lord is guiding. And so we thank God for you who have been praying for this ministry. And we humbly ask that you continue to pray for this ministry. And also, we will keep you in prayer. You know, we maintain a close relationship with those who follow us and those who are with us in prayer as well. We're looking at 2 Chronicles chapter 10. It tells us the story of Rehoboam. Now, Rehoboam was Solomon's son. He was the successor to the throne. He was going to be king. And the Bible tells us that he went to Sheclah. And Shekel, he went to Shekel, and there in Shekel, the men were assembled, and they were going to make him king. Everything was his coronation was about to take place. Everything was getting ready, but before he became king, the people had a talk with him. They said, "Look, towards the end of your father's reign, he just taxed us too much. He put a burden on us that we couldn't follow." Now that was the downfall of Solomon. Solomon, who began as a good king, Solomon who was a king who took Israel to a world power status, because Israel had always been a regional power, but it had never been a world power until Solomon. When Solomon began to reign, because of the grace that God had given David and the favor that God had given David and the grace and the favor that God had given Solomon, the kingdom began to flourish. It began to be blessed. And when people who know what they're doing are in charge, things begin to go well. Things begin to shift. And that was the case with Israel. And Israel was blessed because of Solomon. But Solomon began to take a downward spiral. He began to do things that disobeyed God. He began to do things that didn't please God. And towards the end of his reign, he also began to burden the people. He began to tax them to no end. He began to put a burden on them to no end. And the people had had enough. The people said, enough is enough. We can't take this anymore. So they talked to his son, who was going to be the likely heir apparent. And so they talked to him and they said, "Look, your father put a burden on us, and we can't handle that burden anymore." He said, "Well, give me 3 days to think about it." And in those 3 days, the Bible tells us that he went with the older men, and he asked them, "What should I do?" And the older men gave him some good advice. They said, "Look, work with the people. Your father taxed them to no end. You're going to have to work with them. If you work with them, these people are going to be with you. They're going to support you." And he went to his friends, which were, the Bible tells us that Rehoboam was about 41 when he began to reign. So his friends were pretty much close to his age. And they were younger men, and they said, "You know what? You tell them that you're going to be tougher. You tell them that if they think their dad was something, you're going to be a lot worse, and you're gonna treat them with no mercy. You're going to be tougher, and that's the way it's going to be. And like it or not, I'm in charge now." Well, it didn't work out for him. He decided to take that advice instead of taking the counsel from the older men. He took the counsel from his friends, and it didn't work out for him. The kingdom of Israel was split into two kingdoms, the north and the south. And not only that, but we see that it was so fractured that the kingdom was never, during the time of the kings, was never able to be restored fully because of the mistake that this man had made, because he decided to do the wrong thing. Now the Bible tells us that Rehoboam became king as well, so that there was that split. There was one nation with two kings. There was a split between the north and the south. It was civil. It wasn't much of a civil war, because God, through the prophet that came to Rehoboam, had stopped that. But yet there was a split nonetheless. And the Bible tells us that Rehoboam was an evil king. He didn't do what was right before the Lord. He didn't have the success that his father had, because he made the wrong decision. And his following decisions were also bad. And many of the things that he did were just going downward. The glory that the kingdom once had, the majesty and the beauty that it was there during the reign of David and during the reign of Solomon, was gone because of one bad decision. It's so important to be led by God. It's so important to be guided by the Lord. Maybe you have a major decision you got to make in your life. Maybe there's some area where you have to ask for God's guidance, where you have to ask for God's lead. It's so important to be led by God. It's so important to not fall into the mistake that others have made. I think that God is allowing us to look at what Rehoboam did wrong, so that we can learn, and we can learn to obey and to seek his counsel, because God knows what's best. Many years ago, there was a program on TV called Father Knows Best. And yes, Father knows best. Our Heavenly Father, He knows what direction we should take. He knows what route we should go. And so it's so important to be led by God. Let God lead, direct, and guide your life today.
When many think of World Missionary Evangelism, they think of us as an organization that provides meals for the hungry. We do that. But in many cases, this is just the beginning. We also provide farm animals for families. Why? Because this allows us to give them something that can help them win the battle of hunger each and every day. A farm animal, such as a chicken, a hog, milk goats, a milk cow, or a water buffalo, can feed a family by providing eggs, milk, cheese, and other products. They can also serve as a source of income for selling food and offspring at local markets.